Three 123s that are market beaters. Alternatively, I would have titled this video 3 123s that are always going to be a great deal for the money. But, you know, I was thinking about this, and the truth about these cars is they kind of beat the market a little bit because they're good cars and they're just really underappreciated. And so these early 123 cars that, you know, I'm going to talk about, or at least, you know, two of them are earlier production than one was sort of a later production car. Sort of offer 123 reliability and drivability for those that don't want to fork out too much money for an average 123 turbo diesel or a station wagon. So the first one of these cars that I'd like to talk about is the 230 and the 230E. Now these are two different models, but the 230 was sold in the United States from 77 to 78. It uses an engine called the M115, which was a carbureted gasoline inline four. Because there's no such thing as a carbureted diesel. It doesn't work. And it was a pretty robust car. Like, these engines were well known for being durable, flexible, reasonable fuel economy, great reliability. And the few that I've worked on, I've always had high praise for. They had good torque characteristics. They had a very pleasant exhaust and engine note, and they deliver something similar to the power, maybe a little bit more power than a 300D non-turbo. The next model that was part of the 230 family was the 230E. Now this is a European market car. I have mixed emotions about this particular model because there are some weak points of the M102 engine, which was the same engine that was used in the 190E, but it's still a 123, so everything is repairable. The big issue with the 230E is that a lot of those cars, when they were imported, were not really well taken care of. But the nice examples out there that do exist kind of get brushed under the radar. And with a little extra work and study to set up the K-Jetronic injection system and make sure that your valves are adjusted, and some simple factory updates like the updated ignition control unit that was used on early 190Es can be installed in this car. There's some adjustments that can be made to the K-Jetronic injection system to make the engines run a little better. They actually are decent cars. They are reliable. They do deliver good power and fuel economy for what it's worth. And there was a 230CE and a 230TE as well, and these also fly under the radar in their respective price categories. Now the third car that I'm going to mention is the 240D automatic. 240D stick shifts tend to bring more money than I think, not all the time, but they are sometimes worth. The 240D automatic is one of those cars where know-nothings on internet forums go, oh, it's so slow. But the truth of the matter is the car's really not that slow. It's not much slower than a stick shift. The whole reason these cars gained a reputation for slowness is because the transmission's pressure control linkage, the shift control linkage that tells the transmission when to shift based on engine RPMs on the early cars, the 77 to 79 cars, has a bushing that wears out, causing the linkage to flop all over the place instead of allowing the engine to build up speed and sort of shift in its power band. And the later cars, which use the vacuum shifting control, don't have any cables or kick down linkages or whatever. It's all we're using the vacuum modulator. And these systems are usually not set up properly. And once you set them up properly, the cars are fine. They perform just like a stick shift car does. Maybe you might lose, you know, a half a second or something from 40 to 60 miles an hour. But I find that the stick shift performance of the 240D is overhyped. I mean, they're not the fastest car, but they will do whatever they need to do. And my first car was a 74 240D automatic, and it was just fine. I drove it everywhere. Now, the funny thing about all these cars is that you'll find that people either don't know anything about them or they have bad things to say about them. But inherently, they're all Mercedes. Keep in mind, they were all used in the developing world. If you want something that's a little nicer, though, I threw in a bonus card. But before I tell you what the bonus model is, I want you to like, share, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, and if you have the if you have the positive impression of our channel, that I hope you do, please tell one of your friends who owns a classic Mercedes or is interested in classic Mercedes about our channel and encourage them to watch it, because they might get some information that could either help them find the right car or help them sort out an issue on their existing classic Mercedes. Now, there's one last Mercedes that flies under the radar that I really, really love, that's a total underappreciated gem, and that's the 280E. And of course its variants, the 280CE and TE. Now, concerning the US market 280E and 280CE, the year to get is the 81, because they replaced the climate control system with the better system that was used on the 81300SD, the 81300D, etc. They did away with the servo, which is still fine, it still works. But the 81 model year system is just the creme de la creme. I still think that's the best climate control system ever installed in a Mercedes, because you don't have to pull the dashboard out to service any of the vacuum actuators, and all the vacuum line connections actually make sense, unlike the previous system where there are some questions. The European market 280E is a great performing car as well. They didn't have this system. Well, most of them didn't have this system. They do offer 185 horsepower, and very few people really know or appreciate these cars. Now, I'm not saying that they're better than the 300D Turbo. There's a reason that the 300D Turbo and its variants, the 240D stick shift, sell for the kind of money they do. But if you're willing to try something different, you're willing to learn some things about these cars, you're willing to study up in the cars, and you're willing to sort of, adopt one of these things, and you don't want to get into it at way too much money, these are great alternatives, and you can buy some really nice examples for half of the price of a nice 123 turbo diesel. Anyway, guys, take great care of the classic Mercedes you have, and we'll see you in the future.